call this meeting to order. My name is Jeff Gow, your committee chair representing the great city of Dunedin. Let's go around the room. I'll start on my left and introduce the other PSTA board members on this committee.
Good morning, I'm Patty Reed from the lovely city of Pinellas Park.
Dan Saracki, Mayor of the City of Oldsmar.
Josh Schulman, City of St. Petersburg.
Vince Cox, Pinellas County.
Thank you all very much. Now's the time for public comment. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak? Hearing none, seeing none, we'll bring it back. All righty. Item 3A, approve the April 17th, 2024 minutes.
Motion to approve?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And that item passes unanimously. Item 3B, shelter stop maintenance contract extension. Henry, PSTA's Director of Maintenance, is with us to talk us through the extension of our existing bus stop shelter maintenance contract. Henry,
Hi, good morning.
good morning.
So as I think most of you know, all of our shelter and terminal maintenance services, that's cleaning, that's repairs, that is handled by a contractor, American Janitorial, and it's pretty much an outsourced, a completely outsourced operation, and that's been the case for going on probably 8 years now. The purpose of this action item is to increase the original not-to-exceed limit of the contract by $450,000. As we know, everything has gone up since the year 2020, and that was when this contract was originally procured. Also, I'm going to kind of flip back and forth. As you can see, Director Burns is not here today, so I will play his part as best as I can. When talking about the procurement, since it was in the past, now, AGI supplies us 17 employees, about 37,000 staff hours a year, and as I mentioned before, but they have a lot of roles and responsibilities out there in what they do. Yes, trash cleanup is a large aspect of it, but again, shelter maintenance, minor repairs, stop replacement, pole installation, and the list goes on and on. There's about 15 things that they do. A lot of this is due to, like I mentioned, cost inflation. Now, because a lot of things have changed in terms of escalation amounts, this is going to cover us for the 4th year. The original contract was a 2-year base and 3-year options for a total of 5 years. This is going to get us to the end of year 4, which is September 29th. Reason why we're doing this and not renewing the 5th option year is because we want to put out another RFP, and that's going to serve a couple reasons. One, it's going to see, is there anybody else out there that is currently doing this type of work and providing these services? And two, is it less or equal or greater? We want to test the market and see what's out there with some latest information in terms of cost. The original procurement, as you can see in your tablets, was that it was put out in 2020 through our normal channels. We received 2 proposals. We evaluated those. American Janitorial was selected to provide the service. They're managing it as best as they can. I'll say they do a good job. So the recommendation is to ask for approval of an additional $450,000 to be added to the existing contract to raise the revised not to exceed amount to $3,450,000. And I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions?
So, Al, so this 450,000 gets us for 4 or 5 more months. That's
It covers the entire 4th option year. Yes, so from April to September.
okay. So we've already used the
Yeah, the contract does not line up perfectly with the fiscal year.
okay. Yeah, that just seems like a lot for just based on what the original contract was, so we were at 3.4 million or 3.5 for, you know, what was gonna be 60 months. That seems like a really big increase, right?
So the way that, and yes, it does, the litmus test that I kind of use when I judge what looks like in terms of cost. So we have the need, and then I always look at, can we do it equal to or less than what it would cost to outsource cheaper in-house? And is there potential savings out there? Or in terms of what would it realistically cost us to provide the same level of service in-house? So if we took those numbers, it would basically, so the way this works out, the 450,000 is about $75,000 per month. That's labor costs, supplies, that's capital lease for all the equipment that they have. If we were to do that in-house, it would be closer to $83,000 a month. Now, that's just labor. That's not including the upfront capital costs that we would have to take on to purchase additional trucks, trailers, power washing equipment. That's estimated that that would be about $600,000. Now, we would own it, but that is certainly a considerable expense. So when you look at the totality of what it looks like on a monthly savings to fulfill that demand, it's saving us about $8,700 and some change outsourcing. So over the course of a year, about $100,000. And then over the life of the contract of 4 years, it'd be about $400,000. So it is less expensive. It saves us money to outsource.
Yeah, and I understand that. I guess what I'm struggling with the fact that it's 56% more than the monthly cost in the original contract. And that, and we could talk about inflation and cost of goods, but I don't think we've seen a 56% increase in the sorts of things that go into this work. Without having looked at it specifically.
Yes, sir.
To your point, Commissioner Schulman, you're right, that not, when we awarded this contract, we thought $3 million was gonna be good for 5 years. And now, we're gonna need $3.4 million for 4 years. So, you're exactly right, the price has gone up, and it's not just inflation, it's the increase in trash. As we've been talking, we've talked trash at this committee a lot over the last bit. As Henry just said, it's costing us, what did you say, $83,000 a month? So at $3 million divided by 5 years is $50,000 a month, what we predicted, and it's costing us $83,000 a month for the trash and shelter pickup. So, this last budget, we realized that, and we cut the number of trash cans and are dealing with that now. But Henry's correct also in that, well, the alternative would be to either bid this out again and see if we can get a lower price, or do it ourselves, but he's done the analysis that shows that that would be more expensive.
Right.
So yeah, it's not a clean story.
No, it's very
So,
messy.
It's very messy.
and I do appreciate I mean, obviously, that's why I think I wanted to go back out to bid and make sure that we're, not just exercising the fifth option year. And I realize that we need something to get us from where we are now to having that proposal. It's just, I also appreciate the context of additional trash pickups. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
When they pick up the garbage, trash, do we get an additional bill for when it goes to the dump, or are they covering that also?
No, we pay for that.
So it's their fee plus our dump fee?
No. They just pick up the trash. They go to the landfill and utilize our, what they call dump ticket ID, so we're not double paying.
Right, but we're paying, what I'm trying to say is, so we pay them, but then all the trash that they pick up, we're also covering that. So this doesn't include the garbage going to the dump. It includes just their services, just their actual manpower and cleaning stuff.
Yes, correct.
So if we did it in-house, we would be covering the same thing as far as just labor and cleaning supplies, because we're already paying for the garbage going to the dump.
We're already paying for the garbage going to the dump. The cleaning supplies, they are paying for.
Right, but I mean, if we did it in-house, then our cost would actually just be the labor and,
Well, it'd be yes, it would be the labor and then all of the capital costs to buy all the equipment to ramp up the extra employees. We would need to cover that.
okay.
Is the trash fees that we pay to the county or whoever included in this $3.3 million number?
No, no,
It's
it's
separately.
It's
So,
separate.
yeah, so it's 3.4 million plus the dump cost, because that's not cheap, because we utilize it, so,
Yes, if I understand,
yeah,
yes.
okay,
The dump fees are not part of this
right.
3.4 million.
How many employees would it take to do this job?
17.
Yeah,
It would take 17,
They,
okay.
they currently have 17.
Dedicated to us, or to?
Yes, dedicated to
To
us.
us, okay.
How much monitoring is available to us in the validation of these numbers?
Yeah, okay, so the
Right.
way we monitor contractor compliance is we currently have one dedicated employee that does nothing but on-site inspections. She has set schedules that she tours every municipality in Pinellas County. She also does shelter inspections. The other thing that we have, and you probably heard me mention this over the years, is we utilize a facilities tracking system called Property Track. And they're all linked into our system. So work orders are generated, so every time they go out and service or complete a routine scheduled run of trash or shelter, whatever it is they do out in the road, a work order is generated. And we also take pictures as well. This is also the same system that we encourage counties to, or municipalities, and they currently do them. Several municipalities communicate directly to us with code enforcement. We're also on. So in short, the answer is we have folks that are monitoring contractor supply compliance, and they're also linked into our central tracking system. And we've got GPS, same technologies that we have on the buses with CAT AVL, GPS location systems we have on their trucks and equipment.
If we say no to this as a committee and it goes to the board says no, what are next steps? What happens after that?
There's a lot of trash.
Right, it cancels
Well, they're
out the
still under
contract, right?
contract for a certain amount of time.
Well,
And what kind of timeline?
Van pool and go one.
We could borrow Oldsmar's truck.
Well, that was the idea with the budget, was that the
Yeah,
cities were
July
gonna pay
1st.
for the trash. That doesn't seem to really have happened, but
yeah, July
Did,
1st.
did you rely on board members to talk to their own municipalities, or did?
no, I,
Okay, PSTA representatives called cities and tried to connect, and
yes, I emailed every city head or
you gotta knock on their door.
several of them came back just with their phone number for waste management. Then I could get a contract, and I was like, hey, that's not what I wanted.
Yeah, and I guess, I'm assuming if we say no to this, then it invalidates the contract, it ends. The alternative would be, we do it ourselves or put it out to bid at that time, what happens in between. I'm trying to look at a timeline on how much trash would build up, how quickly would it take us if we decided to move it in-house? What does that timeline look at for hiring the labor to get the capital in here?
The answer to that question is two things. One is we are going out for a new proposal. I believe talking with Al, we should have something back to you more or less around July, for the July timeframe. There would be a transition period of of approximately 30 to 45 days if a new contractor was selected. In order for us to take it in-house, capital purchasing would probably take anywhere from 6 to 8 months. Hiring 17 employees would certainly change the dynamics of the budgeting for that, so that would take time. So I would say about 6 to 8 months. In terms of how long would it take for the trash to build up?
2 days.
2 days.
Less than 24 hours. Although I imagine that if I checked my inbox right now, I probably have a couple quick fixes with some reports that there are some shelters that need some quick attention.
That might incentivize some of our municipalities to reach back out to you, wouldn't it? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Deb, we have money in the operating fund for this?
We do have money in the funds for this. We do not have money at this point in time for $500,000 worth of capital purchases. So that would be something, and we're fully allocated on our at this point.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve.
Got more questions? Can I ask more questions?
Sure.
If we say yes to this, you've acknowledged what that timeline looks like as far as the procurement process and bids. Do you think what they're asking, one, right, we only had 2 companies bid on the original, so that tells you what the industry might be like. Is there an anticipation what those numbers would come in? I know it's pure
Not until they did,
speculation,
right?
I get it, I get that it's speculation, but is this indicative that all of a sudden we're looking at really serious money?
My hope is always that Burns is able to work his magic and have it be done for lower costs. I know that part of our new RFP is some scope changes. As Brad has mentioned, we have reduced many trash cans out there, total-wide, probably about 300 or 400. We continue to look to eliminate more. So yes, there might be some reduction in scope that we could look at. Short answer is yes, I hope it's cheaper. At the very least, that at least it's on par. And then combined with that, hopefully there's additional competition, more so than the original 2. Hopefully there's 3 or 4 or 5.
Well, certainly this makes a wonderful talking point for PSTA. If anybody wants to say anything about where we spend our money, and we can tell them it's cheaper to do this than in-house. We've reached out to municipalities. They don't want to do it, so we're spending the money that we need to spend to keep the trash off the streets and our shelters under good maintenance. It's certainly more than I think the board would like to say yes to, but if anybody wanted to entertain a motion?
I have a question.
Oh, I have a question.
I need a second.
We haven't,
Yeah.
we're still.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. So obviously, it makes sense to pass this, because we can't take it on in-house for 5 months and then put it out to bid to somebody else. And we can't not pick up the trash and just say, well, I hope it all works out. However, I guess one of the things that I'm struggling with is this covers us from April to September, right?
Yes.
So it's May, and we're hearing about this in April. So we've had 3+ years of this contract being eaten up. I mean, it wasn't going on pace, and then all of a sudden, January, it ticked up, and maybe it did, but I'm assuming it didn't. So I guess that's part of where my big hesitation is just from a administrative standpoint is, this could have been an information item a couple of months ago. This is something that we're doing. This is what we're working on, as opposed to here it is. You don't really have a choice because there's really no better way to do it than just to extend it. And so I would like to see those sorts of thought processes be added in the future, as far as how these things are communicated when they're going to be coming up for extension. The contract extension, that's everything's on budget and moving forward, we just need more time, right? Those are a little bit less, but this, it feels like it's a surprise. And a surprise with no alternative. And I don't know if it was an actual surprise.
Point taken, I think you're exactly right, and I apologize on behalf of this, we knew, and I think you knew, that the costs for trash pickup were going way up, and that's why we had the whole budget discussion. We've had that for like the last year to try to reduce, different ideas on reducing the cost of trash pickup by getting rid of these trash cans, which has been a whole project in and of itself, and working with municipalities and customers, and, you know, Henry takes away a trash can, and for a little while, seems like the citizenry don't understand that there's no trash can. And then they carefully put a little pile of trash where the trash can once was, like it's like
Like it blew away for a minute.
like a ghost trash can is there. And then it seems like it takes a little while, maybe a couple weeks, and then finally people realize there's no trash can there, and then they don't throw their trash on the ground. Hopefully, that's the whole thing. But so we've known that, but what I didn't know, I mean, what we didn't clearly articulate to you is that this was affecting the contract. That the contract was going to come up much faster, you know, just come out and be over the limit because of that, and we should have.
Yeah,
And I know Al knows that.
And I think it makes sense to go back out to bid. I also, a couple other items. Do we put signage at the bus stop saying that there's trash receptacles on the bus?
Yes, yes, we do.
Is that on shelters, on bus stops, on?
Shelters, signs, basically every stop or shelter that had a trash can, we now have a sign there that says, trash cans are provided on board buses. That's our first level signage. We're actually looking at perhaps a more formal sign that says "Do not litter," state statute or city statute, whatever. Just trying to get the message out that it's not acceptable to throw trash on the ground.
Okay.
Where trash cans are being taken away, are you seeing an increase in the receptacles on the bus being used?
Yes, we are.
Question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, but also keeping in mind that a lot of areas we have issues with trash is not actually trash that is generated by a typical passenger or generator.
Understand
So, and Waste Management doesn't offer any help to us, or are we looking at them in the future as far as pickups of the garbage cans there as part of their service? Have we talked to them about that?
They can bid, right?
We send it to, when we send the proposal out, we send it to major garbage haulers.
But can we talk to them one-on-one? Are we allowed to do that and just say, hey, we're paying your dump fee?
Yes,
What is your pickup?
absence of Al being here to correct me prior to a solicitation being released, I don't see why we could not. We can certainly do that.
You can.
And then we're trying to remove the garbage cans from areas. So this will decrease how much this company, which I know we get complaints all the time about the garbage at the thing. So that's why I'm kind of like, one of our biggest complaints is the condition of our stops. And then they're increasing 56%, but one of our biggest complaints is garbage. So we're paying them more to still do not the best of jobs, maybe? Or is it just overwhelming them?
I
Or
think 17 employees trying to cover the entire county on a just about 24/7, 365
It's just, it's
basis.
overwhelming them.
I mean,
Yeah.
we wish we could have, it, but of course, we have a budget that we have to live with.
Do we have to have 300, or do we have, is it 24/7, 365?
It's just about that and I say that because we have floaters during the day addressing hot spots, but most of the time they're working on the overnights to clean shelters. They have to work in the roadways, so when traffic is less, that they can do that.
But they're not picking up trash 24/7.
No, they're not picking it up 24/7. There's other stuff. I mean, they're out there power washing the terminals on a schedule. This also covers the employees who service the restrooms at our manned customer service centers. So that they do a lot of stuff out there for
Are there any other questions? We do have a first. Do we have a second?
I'll second
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And it passes unanimously. Painfully. Okay. Item 3C, bus yard automation agreements. Jacob, planning manager, and Mr. Henry, or present this proposed test of automated bus yard technology.
Thank you, Chair.
Jacob.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jacob Litka, Planning Manager here at PSTA. I'm very excited to present this action item to you today. This is an FTA-funded project to enable autonomous operations on one of our buses in our bus yard for a demonstration period. In summer to fall of 2022, Henry and I were approached by the University of South Florida to submit an FTA grant application in partnership with a technology company out of California called BlueSpace to do this project to enable bus yard autonomous operations. And so we found out last year we were successful in receiving that grant application. And so now we've been working on several agreements since then to do what I like to call the sequel to the AVA project a few years ago. So the action items that are going along with this, so we're recommending approval of a license agreement and a bus yard automation agreement with that company, BlueSpace, for a total cost not to exceed $313,333. And also recommending approval of a research agreement with the University of South Florida for a total cost not to exceed $579,276. And I will note this is completely budget neutral to PSTA. Those numbers I just mentioned are completely covered by the FTA grant. And the required match for this grant is largely covered by the project partners in kind, BlueSpace and the University of South Florida, also with partnership with Qatar associated with USF. And the only thing that PSTA is contributing financially to the project is paying the cost of an operator or somebody from maintenance to be a safety attendant on board the vehicle. And this is somebody that we would already be paying anyway. So it's completely budget neutral to PSTA. So before I describe more about this project, I want to turn back the clock a little bit and briefly discuss our record of innovation that has gotten us to this place in time where we're talking about an autonomous bus going around our bus yard. If you go back all the way to 2012, we had we're the first in the state of Florida to operate a route where you could deviate off of its route through our former connector service. And through other other innovations on this list, it shows that we have a record of making small investments in emerging and new technologies that have spearheaded into much larger, often grant-funded programs. As an example, in 2016, we were one of the first in the country to partner with companies like Uber and Lyft on our Direct Connect program. Concurrently to that effort, we submitted in around that same time an FTA grant program, to the Sandbox program, which has funded the initial pilot of the Mobility on Demand program that has now become a permanent part of PSTA. In addition, around that same time, PSTA made investments in a few electric buses with its own capital dollars, and since then, we've attracted a lot of grant dollars for the inductive charging station out on the lay-by, as well as FTA and dollars such as from the Volkswagen Mitigation Trust Fund to fund our electric bus fleet. So I think part of this list really demonstrates our ability to make some of those initial investments and leverage other dollars to help us try out new technologies and see where it fits within the PSTA system. But in addition, we have to, of course, do other innovative things, such as being the first public school UPass in Florida program that we did in 2022. Henry did the first AI deployment in PSTA in maintenance, and who can forget the recent monopole that's out on US 19, which is the first monopole in Florida. And of course, we can't forget the AVA program. That was our initial foray into the world of autonomous vehicles, where we deployed this vehicle, the Nave vehicle, across 3 sites in Pinellas County in St. Petersburg, Clearwater, and Dunedin between 2020 and 2022. So this is a combination of some funding from PSTA, but also some grant funding. And I think through the implementation of this project, it made us a attractive applicant for the FTA. And so I would argue that doing this technology has led us to the point of being able to do this project funded by the FTA. So a few goals we're looking to test during this pilot period funded by this grant when we're looking at autonomous bus yard operations. So we're really going to be working, particularly Henry and his team, looking at to see what sort of efficiencies can be gathered through this technology and to see if it might make sense after this demonstration to explore what this might look like to expand it to other vehicles in the fleet. So, for example, are there efficiencies where normally you'd have somebody driving the bus throughout the yard to go between like the bus wash or the revenue room? Can that be done by the autonomous systems, and can that individual tasks be reoriented towards focusing on the bus? Can we also maybe park the buses closer to one another? We know that we're confined by the real estate we have in our bus yard to park our buses. So in a future where we might think about a fleet expansion, could we fit more buses in the yard through this technology by parking them closer to one another? Also, a question we're asking ourselves is, what does this technology look like in the future, more distant future, when it might be out on the street? What might that look like? And so a way we can actually test that in the bus yard is with our test Sunrunner station to do what's called precision docking, to actually have the bus dock onto the station to where it is completely level with the platform to see how well this software can handle that. So these are just a few of the things that we'd be looking to test during this period. So to show you what some components of this technology might look like and to describe essentially who's doing what. So shown on the left here is a piece of equipment that will enable what's called drive-by-wire, and I'll let Henry explain that more if you're interested to learn more about that during Q&A. So this part of the project is going to be installed by the University of South Florida, so they'll be acquiring and installing this drive-by-wire equipment in the driver's seat of the vehicle. And so this equipment, also shown on the top two pictures, connecting with the pedals and the steering wheel. That equipment will be connected to the software and hardware, pictures of what that might look like shown on the bottom, connected to software and hardware provided by Bluespace, that tech company we're working with out of California, that will enable the autonomous operations. So all of these systems will work together to create an autonomous bus out of one of our existing buses in the fleet. To show you another image of what this might look like in a future beyond the demonstration period, so shown on the left is what bus yard operations look like now, and on the right is what bus yard operations would look like in a future with autonomous technology installed on one of our buses. The red arrows indicate a human operator in the seat. Orange arrows indicate a service attendant driving the vehicle around the yard, and the blue arrows indicate completely autonomous operations. So today, of course, you have a driver coming out from revenue operations, bringing the bus back into the bus yard, parking the bus, sometimes often in a corner that feels like it's all the way in Safety Harbor, and having to walk back to the maintenance and operations facility here. And then later on, a service attendant will go get that same vehicle and drive it through the bus wash, revenue room, or other places in the bus yard to do other maintenance and bus tasks during the day. And then the graphic on the right shows that the bus for this, at least for this demonstration, will still be driven by a human driver out on the street. So we're not talking yet about doing any autonomous operations with this technology on public roads. So the bus would pull into the bus yard, and then the bus operator would get off of the vehicle, and then the autonomous systems would engage, and those driving functions that were performed by the service attendant now performed by the autonomous technology on board the vehicle, so that service attendant can focus on what they do best, focusing on the bus, and the autonomous systems can focus on driving the vehicle around the bus yard. But I will also add, like I mentioned before, similar to the AVA program for this demonstration period, we would be looking to have somebody on board the vehicle when this bus is operating autonomously, just as a safety attendant while we're initially testing out this technology. So once again, the recommendation here is to recommend approval of a license agreement and a bus yard agreement with that technology company, Bluespace, and recommending approval of a research agreement with the University of South Florida. And so with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First off, I want to say I think it's great that we're being looked at as a leader in innovation, and all the departments that are involved should be applauded for the work that brings us here. And what we're trying to do to transit, not just for our agency, but for the country as a whole. That being said, my main question comes along the line of damages,
Mhm.
right? So, yes, we have an attendant on board or a safety person there, but if, this bus is using the automated systems to park at our Sunrunner stop on campus, and it misjudges, right, and damages the bus, damages the stop, who's responsible for that?
So I will say we have liability terms that are written into the agreement. I don't recall what they say specifically, but I will say they've been thoroughly reviewed by our legal team, BMO. And I will mention that these agreements, the backbone of these agreements were actually based off of the BEEP agreements that we had, back when we operated AVA. So we did, obviously it's a different use case here, so we modified it to, address some of those concerns you raised. So that is a good question. I know it's handled by or mentioned in the agreement.
And it was reviewed by our risk director, Diane
Yes.
Randall.
Now,
It was
the
very
thing
risk averse.
I will also add is before we go live, we're going to obviously put it through the rigors of testing by docking next to a fake safe Sunrunner station that's made of perhaps wood before concrete. So if it can judge that, and again, on board the vehicle will be a quote safety attendant, most likely would be me, but wired into this vehicle is going to be, I'm gonna just say a big red button, also known as a shunt trip, which is if it does anything or acts up in any way, you hit the button, it stops the bus immediately. I mean, it's not on, the bus will not even be moving, it won't be running anymore. So there's a lot of safety backups involved, but we're gonna test before we go live anything in the parking lot.
Okay, thank you.
I have one question. So the actual unit is gonna be installed at every single bus?
Oh, no, this is just one bus for this
So
demonstration.
one bus, it's installed, so someone can still drive it, but it's gonna be installed. It'll be there all the time.
Yes, for the demonstration period, yes.
Gotcha, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a couple. So, I understand it's not gonna cost us anything, and halfway through this, they're not gonna say, we need more money.
Yeah.
But when they take it all out, at the end of this test period, that doesn't cost us anything.
No.
And then, I'm all for, and I'm glad that we got this and that, I'm not for, how do I say it correctly? Replacing our drivers.
Of course.
So I'm not sure where the goal end of this is, and I don't know, Henry would know because it's his people and his buses. If this is something that, you know what I mean? So that's, I just never want it to be that we're replacing our employees, nor that the fact that we're gonna take a bus out of operation, obviously, because this bus isn't gonna be able to leave the yard. And it's gonna be just drove through and around to see how well it parks, so I get that. So we lose a bus and we lose a person. But for this test, but as long as Henry, you know what I mean, but I just don't want it to be, I just don't.
So, my own personal opinion is that probably, what you're talking about, which called FSD, full self-driving, right? Stuff you hear with the Teslas. For trucks and buses, that is way off in the future. Unless you live in Europe, and even they haven't deployed it to the point where they're replacing human bodies. This experiment is more about increasing efficiency just in the yard. The actual people that drive the buses, technicians and operators, spend so much time just walking to the bus. And if it was raining this morning, people actually have to walk out in the rain to get to their bus. And it's really a practical demonstration to see if we can reduce some of that walking time and get people to their vehicles faster, get vehicles faster to the service lane rather than having 13 people at night walking to buses all night long. That's where we are today. Full self-driving, at least here in America, I'm not seeing it for a while. But this, obviously you gotta start somewhere. This is a good place to start.
The other thing, which to me, as transit operations, the pictures that Jacob just showed, it looks like it's it looks to me, I will call it, I don't know what I'm talking about, a robot that is gonna sit in the driver's seat and drive this bus around. Well, I'm not really sure what the plan is to scale it up to the full fleet, because do you take does the robot get out of the bus and walk over to the next bus and do it again?
Yeah, that
Or
was
do we
my
have to
next
get
question, is
200
like-
of these things? One for each bus? It seems like this is just an incremental step. They're gonna do one, but you know, there's a whole other, there's a lot of other aspects. Like, who is actually gonna put the diesel fuel, you know, the thing into the bus? Is the robot gonna do that, or plug it in? I don't know.
This is technology augmenting humans.
Okay.
It's not replacing humans.
Yeah, it's just a test.
Anything else? Thank you, Patty, for mentioning staff, because I'm even reluctant to use self-checkouts.
Yeah,
I have
unless they're gonna
a
hire
real
people
issue
from
with
payroll.
human.
That seems to make more sense.
But, and I know that we've talked about incremental steps and this is just testing, but I also heard we're gonna test before going live.
There's test going, I'll rephrase.
Okay.
There's a demonstration plan, which is docking to the station, parking into a parking space next to real equipment, real infrastructure, fixed assets. What I call test is, we have, say, a plywood platform.
Okay.
We have fake buses, right? Or maybe buses that are retired, going to be disposed of, right? Not our newest vehicles next to a concrete test station out there. So that's what I meant by test.
Okay. So this is similar to Ava, in the idea that we will test it, then we'll say thank you very much. And
Have a nice.
industry will come back 10 years from now and.
They'll
what's the next
take-
one?
Take us
they'll
for
take
Oh,
whatever
yes.
does-
Test
Yeah.
them.
Absolutely.
Okay, yes, sir.
Yeah, Jacob, I just want to say, I am really excited about this program. I think this is great. I love this kind of stuff, technology. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say after this doesn't crash and it's successful. How's that sound?
You know what, you
It
move
doesn't
up, I'm
cost
also
us
looking forward to that.
All right, Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve.
Yeah.
You are my sunshine.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. Passes unanimously.
Do we have a budget for pool meetings?
Thank you, Jacob.
All right, and we are gonna move on to information items. Website redesign. Amanda,
Oh,
Director of Marketing Communications,
Here
will
we
take us through
go.
plans for a new and improved website. Well, if we're gonna get a new one, it should be improved.
Yes.
Very good.
Fair enough.
That may be coming to us next month in the form of, wow.
Yes, so I'm
This
giving
is
you a little
exciting.
sneak preview. Amanda Barrett, Director of Communications and Marketing. We are currently in the RFP process for a new and improved PSTA website, as you mentioned. So just to set the stage a little bit, I wanted to kind of give some numbers about where the website stands today. The website we have right now, launched back in 2017, was built in 2016 code-wise. Obviously, we've made content updates since then, but the construction code development of it happened back in 2016, launched in 2017. Since then, we have gotten up to over 500 pages of information contained within PSTA.net as it stands today. As of April 30th, we had 263,000 visitors to our site just this fiscal year. There have already been many, many more since then. I pulled the number last night. We're already up to 280 month to date, year to date. And that comes out to an average of somewhere between 35 and 40,000 visitors a month. That's sets of eyeballs, not people coming to the website on a recurring basis. Most people go to the website 3 or 4 times. Of all of those 35 to 40,000 visitors, about 71% of them are visiting our site on a mobile device, iPhones and Samsung Galaxy devices being the most popular. Which brings us to why we're doing this. There's a few core reasons why we're doing this. First and foremost, technology needs. I'm working very closely with our IT team and our IT director to make sure that the website is meeting and exceeding all of our technological needs. The most important of which is off-site hosting. Our website today, all of the code lives on a server in this building, down the hall in the IT department, which means that if we lose power or if we lose network, if a bulldozer takes out a power pole outside our campus and we're out without network, our website goes down completely. So part of our website scope is moving that website to a cloud-based off-site hosting, which will create better resiliency. Obviously, in an emergency situation, when the power or network goes down, that's when people need our website the most. So making sure that our website is up and running if a storm hits or something of that nature is of the utmost importance. Off-site hosting will also help increase our security at a level that we cannot replicate here on site. In addition, a new and improved website will create some simplified back-end maintenance, and the scope also includes some support that we just do not have today. So if there is a technological thing that we need support with on updating the back-end, I'm not a web developer, and this would enable us to have access to the experts. Additionally, communications and branding needs. After our buses and shelters out in the community, our website is our most visible footprint of PSTA to all of our various community stakeholders. So having the ability to get the right information to the right person at the right time is of the utmost importance, and making sure we're putting our best foot forward is also extremely important. So improving the way we can provide those quick updates for things like service alerts, detours, new programs is critical, as well as making sure that that site flow navigation is as intuitive as possible. And a key part of that is also search engine optimization. Google, Bing, all of those guys, making sure that when people are looking for information about PSTA, our website is the #1 and most authoritative source for that information, and that it is right at the top of those search results. Another cool part about SEO is a lot of the SEO best practices are also ADA best practices. So the data that those search algorithms are looking for are the same pieces of data that screen reader technology uses in order to read a page intuitively. So ADA compliance is also a key part of this scope. And last but certainly not least is our user experience. Our scope placed a really heavy emphasis on making sure that the user experience was seamless and intuitive, both in terms of the design and build of the site, that it's going to load quickly, that it's going to be mobile friendly, all of these things. And for all of our target audiences, obviously our riders, but also our partners, our prospective advertisers, businesses in the community who might be interested in UPass, our community stakeholders and elected officials such as yourselves. If you are looking to pull up the agenda for this meeting, I want you to be able to find it as easily as possible. So, all of that said, a little bit about the procurement plan. We are still in the cone of silence, so this is what our highly motivated procurement director has given me permission to say. We received 29 proposals, which is a lot of proposals. The first selection committee meeting was held on May 2nd. The second selection committee meeting will be held in June, and you can expect award recommendations in next month's finance committee meeting and board meeting. What's more exciting than the procurement plan is what's going to happen afterwards. The scope also includes a really robust discovery phase. We're going to be doing a lot of research with the committees, with our track committee. I gave them this same presentation last night. And we're going to talk to you guys about your hopes and dreams for an improved website. What sticking points do you have? What sticking points have you heard from constituents or community members or friends and neighbors who are interacting with our website and struggling to find information? How can we best design a website? So that discovery phase is a really critical part of the scope. And once that discovery phase is completed, we are going to be coming back with more updates, Through the design and build phase, there'll be opportunities for user testing with both the committees and with TRAC and with other focus groups. So this is going to be a very hands-on process. We might have a whole other workshop about it or something of that nature, just to make sure that all of the hopes and dreams of all of our community stakeholders and target audiences for the website are met. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So I definitely think the website needs to be revamped. So let's just start with that. And I appreciate that there's going to be kind of a listening tour of what could be in there. So I'm going to start with that.
Okay.
First off, you talked about the search engine optimization. Do we know if we're going to be asking for better indexing for searching on the site itself?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We did include very specifically and ask for a predictive search within the site so that we can, if someone Googles autonomous bus pilot, that all of our information is going to come up within both Google, and if they search it in the search bar on our site, it will work.
Fantastic. Are we also recording or taking note of the search terms that people are using
Yes.
currently on the website?
Yes.
Okay.
I monitor all of that right now because
Okay.
that's where I like to get geeky. And our firm has a pretty robust, the scope contains a pretty robust SEO component, yes.
Okay, that's awesome, because that's been my biggest frustration is, like, I just typed in group fairs on PSTA's website, and it said, we can't find any.
Yes.
I'm like, I know we have them.
Yes.
And those are the sorts of things that I was just trying to think of, what would someone who is coming here with a family go, how do I find that?
I typed in Sunrunner and it said it was nothing.
Yeah, that
It's
search
not nothing, it's
bar-
everything.
That search bar, works when it wants to.
Yeah.
So we're.
So there's key areas of improvement, so I appreciate that.
Yes.
And just one area that's always been a challenge for me is when you look up routes, you get a PDF file. Not only are those PDF files oriented, like North is never always up, and then you turn your phone and the document's turning with you, and you can never like get oriented.
Yes.
But some sort of interactive map where you could get the route and find out bus stops and maybe, that sort of stuff would be, I think, wonderful for user and the overall user experience. So just kicking off your listening tour.
Appreciate it.
That's all I got until I come up with 5 more things.
Anyone else? You'd mentioned, Amanda, what, 37,000 plus visiting every month. Where are they going, do you know?
So some of our most popular pages are various routes and schedules, Suncoast Beach Trolley, Sunrunner. It's pretty closely mapped to our top 5 routes, our top 5 pages. And then on a monthly basis, it changes. If we post a blog, sometimes that cracks the top 10, or if we launch any programs, and depending on what we happen to be pushing that month.
And of those that are looking for routes, are those potential new riders? Or are they just existing? Because I'm surprised that for our consistent riders, do they just know the times and routes so well they don't need to look? I'm surprised it's only 3 to 4 per user.
Yeah, I will say that our track committee did mention that when they visit the site, most frequently it is to download those PDFs, just at the most recent service change kind of thing. So I would say our habitual riders they'll visit when we do those thrice annual service changes, download their new PDF, they're good to go. So our new riders, or our like I said, the Sunrunner and the Suncoast Beach Trolley are consistently 2 of our top website pages, which obviously those audiences, it's going to have some regular commuter riders, but they also are very tourist-heavy services, so that might attribute that traffic.
Mr. Chairman, I would just also point out to what Amanda just said. In your board packet every month there's a stat of number of, I think it's websites, average website visits per day or something like that. And that number, like, for the last 10 years has been going down, because while checking out the routes and the services by potential or new riders is still by far the number 1 use of the website, it's declining for that purpose because there's all these other apps,
Yeah.
like
right.
Google and Transit app and all these other places that people are going instead. That's at least my belief. The website has diverse users. while that is the most people, certainly the website needs to work for board members. I see many board members quickly trying to download the packet, find the agenda for the meeting that they're walking into. And I've been there too.
All our board members are
Applicants,
much more prepared than that.
State representatives have added a whole bunch of things we have to put up on our website, in new laws that exist, so.
Good. Well, and I'm happy to see that it's going to the cloud. I mean, that's important. And I'm guessing now, do we have that opportunity right now, or?
It'll be when we launch the new site. We have our scope is a not to exceed of 18 months after award. However, I'm fairly confident that whatever contractor we select will find some time efficiencies there.
Quick question. Will
Yes,
this,
ma'am.
will this utilize the form I know that Ross has been working on, so they'll be able to go to that site, click on it to input all the information to see what they qualify for, and it'll be really easy?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Fantastic.
Right? Because that's, yeah, so very cool.
There wasn't much confidence in that. It's our goal. We'll see what happens.
Well, I also heard that, City of St. Petersburg and Pinellas County both tried to, awarded contracts to, upgrade their website, or get new websites, and both entities, in the last 3 or 4 years, canceled those contracts, and then had to start fresh, try again. So,
Yeah,
hopefully, we got
Understand.
29 proposals, so there's gotta be a good one in there.
that is a lot of
There'll be company in there.
All right. If there's nothing else, Amanda, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Maybe that guy from Seattle, what was his name?
Are you talking about the one guy?
The guy that I like, what was his name?
We're on to reports.
I
How
forgot the
exciting
name of
is
that outfit.
this? Deb? All right. Our newly promoted planning and data analyst manager. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I noticed that glow. Very good.
Analyst glow.
Thank
He's here to
you.
talk about ridership trends for March, especially some good news about the Suncoast Beach Trolley.
Good
Deb?
morning, Chair Gow, Finance Committee. My name is Devin Deal, Planning and Data Analyst Manager. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of our operating performance highlights and kind of focus on the Suncoast Beach Trolley and the additional spring break service and ridership. So first of all, for our fixed route ridership, we again see the high peaks in March for our spring break service. The gap between fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 23 ridership is closing. We were about, I want to say like 40,000 less rides in the previous fiscal year last month, and now we're down to about 18,000, 17,500. So that gap is closing, and we hope to see it get even closer in April. So moving on to the Suncoast Beach Trolley, this was our highest ridership route in March by a good margin. And we attribute that to several things. First of all is the demand for our beautiful beaches here, especially Clearwater Beach. We really see a huge uptick in ridership in Clearwater Beach. But also, we have really been working to refine our internal systems and our data collection and how we schedule our spring break service so that it shows up in real time, as well as how we track our plug ridership so that we can get more accurate ridership counts from the plug buses that we send out. Because we do have an interlocal agreement with the City of Clearwater to fund a lot of this additional spring break service, so being able to really track and report that data as accurately as possible has been a focus of ours, and we think that's really paying dividends this year and being able to track this. So we saw 98,000 rides. That was nearly 30,000 more than the previous fiscal year, and like I said, this was our highest ridership route in March. And also, just to note, the Suncoast Beach Trolley travels from Park Street Terminal in the city of Clearwater, crosses the bridge over to Clearwater Beach, and then travels all the way down Gulf Boulevard through all of our beach communities and to 75th and Gulf in St. Pete Beach, and then turns around and does the trip in reverse back up Gulf Boulevard. So for our ridership by trip hour, you can see February in blue and then March in orange. I showed the previous month to kind of highlight how the ridership trends really change when we go to spring break service. In February, you see that it more aligns with our traditional service with a midday, roughly 3 p.m. peak. But in spring break, we see the same peak with roughly 350 boardings an hour at the 3 p.m. hour. This is like 120 more than February at that hour per day. But we also see ridership really still peaks through 5, 6, 7 p.m. until it starts to dip at 8. And we attribute that to a lot of the new tourist crowd in Clearwater Beach going out to dinner and the other interesting activities they have during spring break. And so here is two maps. The map on the left shows our top 10 stops on the Suncoast Beach Trolley in the month of March. There's 5 stops up in Clearwater, 1 at Park Street Terminal, and then there's 4 stops that kind of cover each other on the beach here on Clearwater Beach. And then you move down Gulf Boulevard, we see another stop in Indian Rocks Beach that have really high ridership, and then 2 of our stops at Johns Pass, and our stop at 75th and Gulf where you can transfer to the Sunrunner. The map on the right is a heat map of the ridership activity at the Suncoast Beach Trolley stops. Again, that really highlights Park Street Terminal and Clearwater Beach as the real activity centers on the Suncoast Beach Trolley. You can also see kind of how the ridership is dispersed throughout the rest of the route. So while the highest ridership stops are at in Clearwater Beach and Indian Rocks, Johns Pass, you do see pretty strong ridership here through Treasure Island and things like that as well. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Josh?
What is the interval for the Suncoast Beach Trolley? How often does it?
I think it's scheduled for every 30 minutes, and we supplement that during spring break service. We ran hundreds of plugs and schedule additional service on top of it.
Okay. And the gap in boardings or that you have there, go back to the other map, the map.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yep, that gap. So are we, do we know if we're transporting people from those northern stops
Yes.
through, or is it pretty much kind of empty and then it picks up again? What's the?
So we definitely take people from Clearwater Beach down through to Indian Rocks Beach and Johns Pass. While we don't have stops in Bel Air Shores because they don't pay ad valorem, we do regularly take riders through. They ride from Clearwater Beach to Johns Pass to Clearwater Beach, even St. Pete Beach to Clearwater Beach for an even longer trip, just to kind of sightsee. So we see a combination of both, for sure.
I mean, during spring break though, the city of Clearwater and the extra buses, it's a lot of just down Clearwater to the beach.
Mhm.
Or right along in the Clearwater Beach area.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Is there anybody else? Devin, what about, right, because we also have a northern route up to Tarpon Springs, Dunedin. How does that fit in?
So all of our trolley routes, all of our Jolly Trolley routes see a bump in ridership. I don't have the exact numbers for the coastal off the top of my head, but I can pass that on to you. But we did see a large jump in all of our Jolly Trolley ridership.
Do you know what time that northern route, the coastal route starts? You know the time frame for that?
I believe it's 9 a.m. I would have to double check.
Because I think it is 9. Yeah.
9 o'clock.
So, yeah, because I know I tried to look for the ability to take the Jolly Trolley to the Resiliency Summit on Clearwater Beach. So we'd have to pay for parking, but the time didn't connect, so I couldn't do it, because it started at 9, so.
Oh,
Yeah, yes. Oh, dang. So I wonder if those are opportunities, maybe if we connected to the hotels on the beach. Are there any conferences, you know, in addition to spring break, what else is going on at the hotels? Because I am gonna talk with the Regional Planning Council about using, like, the Clearwater site, you know, certainly talk to Clearwater as well. Can we use their site so that we can have a pickup there to take to the hotel? It's like $25, $50 a day to park. And it's,
I know award winning, well, you were an award winner as well. Congratulations. Award winner Debbie here took the Suncoast Beach Trolley.
Yeah, and that starts earlier, so you could have taken the Suncoast Beach Trolley by parking in Sand Key
For free.
and for free, and then taking it up, which I did.
oh, smart.
I mean, I just walked across the street, but yeah.
And I should know that, dang. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Something we could have shared with other recipients as they grumbled about their parking. All right,
Oh my
but
gosh, yes.
unless there's anything else, thank you, Devin.
Thank you,
very
Finance
much.
Committee.
Quick question.
Yes.
Not for Devin, but do we put little, you could ride PSTA notices on all the cars parked on the beach? Just put them on the underground?
You know, if you can somehow make it sustainable, and so there's not littering, that's a great idea.
Yeah, people do that.
Turn it in as a free bus pass, first usage.
See? All right. I think marketing is listening to that.
Yeah.
Marketing's, that's wonderful. All right, now we are on to our financial report. Julie, this is gonna be so exciting.
I'm glad you think so. Good morning, I'm Julie Lucas, Director of Accounting. Looking at March, we finished with a 3.8 million net deficit, which was 2 million favorable to the budgeted deficit. Revenue is 1.3 million favorable to budget, driven by federal grant revenue. Expenses are 766,000 favorable to budget, led by fringes and insurance expense. Turning to March year-to-date, we finished with a 41.8 million net surplus, which was 3.3 million favorable to the budgeted surplus. Revenue is 1.3 million favorable to budget, with investment interest income and federal grants driving that. Expenses are 1.9 million favorable to budget, with fringes and services expense leading the way there. Does anyone have any more specific questions? Yes.
Not a question, but I did want to point out passenger fare revenue was over budget. So it's slightly, but let's, up is up, right? Like, let's point that out. So,
Celebrate.
yeah. So I don't know if that's, I don't know if that's also partly due to, contactless payment, and making it easier and those sorts of things, but I just want to at least
Good point.
point that out. That was it.
All right, Julie, thank you very much.
Yeah, I didn't want to cover that. I'm picking and choosing,
Let's see some, turn the page.
but thanks for that.
And quarterly reports. Debbie,
Thank you.
CFO and award winner, rumor has it. I like that. Well, take us through the quarterly reports.
This is the same old award, we're just carrying it
Oh, I love
forward? Yes, we're making the most of it. Making the most of it. In your packet are the quarterly reports. Those include the capital projects. And I'll give a little highlights on each of them. On the quarterly report for the capital projects, where we're seeing we're behind schedule, it has a huge dollar impact, is on the anticipated receipt of the buses. They're starting to trickle in, if you take a look out in our bus yard, and we'll be getting a majority of them in fiscal '25 for our 60 buses. On the fuel, which is something I'm keenly watching as we're going through the budget process, right now, we're looking very good. We have an average price per gallon at $2.57 compared to $2.58, but that makes a nice difference when you think of the amount of gallons that we're using. As I look forward to next year, just to give you a little sneak previews, the fuel prices are starting to come back down. However, we're still waiting for HART to conclude, which they're working hard on, conclude their procurement for the next 5 years, at least for us, the next 5 years, for the fuel purchases. That allows me to lock in as we move forward. So this is one of the 5th year of their contract, so I can't lock in as early as I normally do. So we were taking a look at it, so we may be able to come in around 260, 270, depending on where the market is. We're going to start putting out, as soon as I get that procurement in place, what we call a strike price to help lock in fuel. So the other thing as we move forward, less so in '25, but in probably '26, you'll start seeing some significant savings with the electric buses in service. So I'm really excited about that. On the investment side, we're very bland, but we have $90 million worth of investments. We've been doing very well on the interest income, but we still haven't done anything outside of totally non-risk related areas. On the reserves, we've got a reserve report in here. I'm happy to say that last quarter, we had our self-insurance reserves could not be fully funded at that point, based on what the actuary was telling us we should have in there. Working and getting some reimbursements back from the federal government, we've been able to fully fund that. So I feel good about that going forward. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Trish to talk about health insurance.
Yeah, I've got the pleasure of just bringing some highlights on the health insurance report for the quarter. That's the very last page in this packet. Overall, Our second quarter claims costs were lower than Q1. They are still higher than last year at the same time period. We're currently in negotiations for next year's renewal, and our insurance broker, the Garing Group, is helping us with that negotiation. Last year, you might remember, we had a 0% increase on our renewal. So our costs and our employees' costs all stayed flat. And we knew going into renewal this year that we wouldn't get a 0% again. Right now, our estimate in the negotiations is higher than we want it to be. In talking with our broker, Garing Group, they are optimistic that they can bring it a little bit lower before locking in what their final renewal rate would be. So stay tuned for that if you want to share anything else on those numbers, but there will be an increase for this year, and we hope to have that final negotiated rate to share very soon.
And I would say that, thank you, Trish, for every 1% that we go up over the flat amount, it's around $100,000. We're taking a look at maybe some alternatives to bring that down within the benefits package itself. So we're going to take a look at everything this year, see where we land, and hopefully everybody, we saw improvement from quarter 1 to quarter 2. You know, we hope to see some more improvement, but I don't know if we'll see the improvement in time for the renewal process.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
So first off, thank you for the index at the top of the screen that actually jumps down to where things are.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah, awesome. Question about the investments. We have 41 million in the money market cash reserve, showing at 2.5%. How much of that is needed for immediate liquidity? Or put another way, how much could be delayed 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, 8 months?
I would say we've got about, which we do put in longer term, about the $19 million worth of operating reserves, which I believe we have in a little bit longer term.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to just about cover what we have for the next 6 months, so we could probably take a piece of that and put it out a little bit longer.
Yeah, because just looking it up right now, I'm sure we're allowed to invest in treasuries,
Yes, we are.
right, being federally backed.
Yeah.
The 3-month treasury is at 5.389. So, you know, if we're looking at starting to stagger that, I mean, that's twice the income. That's about $1 million of extra revenue, using really bad math, because the balance isn't going to be the same for the entire year. I get that, but that's a relative. I don't know if Synovus is set up to handle treasury operations, but that might be something that we could consider for staggering some of that cash that we know we're not going to need over that time frame. The other item I had was on the health insurance side. Do we know on the high deductible health plan, and I may have asked this and I don't recall, do we know how many folks are taking advantage of the HSA? Do we have like a utilization rate as far as like, are they saving, are they?
Yeah, well, I can tell you that everyone who is in the high deductible plan has an HSA that PSTA contributes to each year. So they at least, at a minimum, have the dollar amount that we're putting in.
That's like $300 or $400.
Yeah, it depends on whether you're covering
Single,
yourself,
family,
spouse, or
right.
family, there's a variable amount. I think that's a good question to get a sense of how many people are saving towards it. We also have a Fitbit program that encourages people to meet a goal for steps and active minutes every day, and we contribute to their HSA
$3.
every day that you meet 10,000 steps or 30 minutes of active minutes. So we're doing things to help put money in, but also make that feel like a meaningful account that people can and should be contributing to on their own.
And I appreciate that. That's the main issue when we talk about the financial health of employees, right? So the high deductible health plan helps us as an organization because our average cost per employee is dramatically lower. But that really means is that employees may potentially have higher costs. And so we need to make sure that they're not either delaying their own care because they can't afford to, then by causing other problems with us as an organization, or it winds up putting them into a financial issue where they either can't work here anymore, they have to go get another job, or something else happens. So making sure that employees understand that saving is part of their overall health. It's just the financial health on that side, I think is when I see these things, that's a piece that sometimes falls short, not necessarily here, but just in the world of high deductible health plans.
Very good point.
So, if we have I don't know if we have the ability to track like average balances, without names, right, or contribution rates or things like that, but
Yeah, we would be able to track how many people are contributing. We do that through our payroll system. I don't think we have eyes on balances,
Mhm.
but we could certainly see how many people are contributing and maybe what the average contribution level is.
and at some point, we may consider things like a match for an HSA, right? So we're matching if you do healthy things.
Right.
We will give you funds for being physically healthy, but we can also help encourage financial health by contributing that way as well. And that it may be changing how much goes in automatically and lowering that, so you have to earn the rest of it, which employees may or may not like, but the goal is to make sure that there is at least an HSA account that can handle the financial needs employees may have, so they actually seek the care that they need on a timely basis. So, that's all I have, thank you.
Always thinking. Is there anybody else? Any questions? Thank you, Lise, very much. Is there anything in general? Does the committee member have any other business? Because I know that Dan needs to grab a donut before the next meeting.
Yes, absolutely.
He's not even in the next meeting.
And so you, just any reason to grab a donut.
Okay, fair enough.
Right. Our next meeting is June 19th at 9 a.m. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Good job, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
And I agree anecdotally. Former minutes, it's a person I would honestly think could be like extra probably spread this year.
Well, and that
I don't
is-
think it's very often.
That is not uncommon, which is why I brought it up, but it is, when you start looking at then how people interact with their health care, and the choices they make, when they don't have the money to cover those additional expenses, they then delay that care, which then usually makes it more expensive, or impacts us because we have more people calling out because they're now also seriously ill, right? Or it affects everything, so we can't just, yeah, it's very common.
For long-range
I,
transportation
the
plan.
calculations, Cigna